until the summit of enlightenment is reached, I and all beings go for refuge to the sources of true refuge. I will now practice the absorption of calm abiding in order to release all beings from their particular suffering and establish them in lasting peace and happiness. Until the summit of enlightenment is reached, I and all beings go for refuge to the sources of true refuge. I will now practice the absorption of calm abiding in order to release all beings from their particular suffering and establish them in lasting peace and happiness. Until the summit of enlightenment is reached, I and all beings go for refuge to the sources of true refuge. I will now practice the absorption of calm abiding in order to release all beings from their particular suffering and establish them in lasting peace and happiness. The third of our contemplations of the four thoughts has to do with the interdependence between our actions of speech, actions of the mind, thoughts and attitudes and various things which we intentionally imagine or unintentionally build opinions and judgments and so on. So actions of the body, actions of the speech, and actions of the mind. And this third one has to do with the interdependence of these three: body, speech, and mind. And taken as on the whole, the body, speech, and mind, and the actions of body, speech, and mind are the way in which we both create karma and experience it. Now, in one sense, one could take this as simply
a small variation on the teaching that what you sow is what you reap. Which is a kind of common concept in most spiritual traditions, but in the context of Buddhism, what you sow is what you reap has a not so subtle distinction from what those words normally mean. And that distinction is essentially that there are no boundaries on either the creation of karma, in other words, the creation of thoughts and speech and actions, no boundaries on the creation of these things, and no boundaries on their potential nor actual manifestation. More explicitly, it is said, all actions of body, speech, and mind bear some result. And that result could happen instantly, like, for example, if I punch you in the nose, you may punch me back immediately. On the other hand, you may hold a grudge for that action, and you may do things in the future which are the result of that action. And I may do things in response to what you did without even knowing what your response was based upon. Kind of like if you throw a large stone in a pond, it will create a number of ripples and waves. And after you can no longer see those waves, there are still forces going on under the water as a result of having thrown that stone in the pond. They just become more subtle. Some of our actions bear a quick result and in a sense disappear completely. The action itself. And some of our actions bear long-term results. And now is where we say, without a boundary, the result could happen at any time in the future. No way to predict, no way to know what the outcome would be. You don't have to look long to realize that you will not be able to see how the various connected pieces fit together. But the philosophical underpinning, the conceptual underpinning in the Buddhist tradition is that they do all fit together. In such a thoroughgoing way that some say any action, no matter how small or big, bears a result. Though some of them may take eons and longer to bear their result. So now we come to an uncomfortable aspect of this. The Buddha himself, in numerous places, is quoted as saying something to the effect, "It is impossible to understand the workings of karma unless you are an enlightened being." On the other hand, the fact that you do not understand it does not mean that you are not subject to it. And therefore, we see pretty much the whole system of ethics inside of Buddhism. Karma is not bound by time and space. We cannot know the outcomes of all of our actions of body, speech, and mind. Therefore, be careful of everything you do and say. Because an example comes to mind. In the many galaxies in our known universe, there are fairly regularly, by our normal standards, cataclysmic events that are so big they are almost immeasurable. These are just science things. And their effect, in almost every instance, occurred in an almost unfathomable past. In other words, they didn't happen recently, but now we see them after many thousands of years, millennia, millions of years. We see the result. In this same way, karma works, remaining invisible for a very long time, like those cataclysmic events or like those waves in the pond. Thus, another teaching of the Buddha runs like this, in a kind of, I think, shocking statement. The majority of the karma that we experience in any given life is actually the result of our actions of body, speech, and mind in previous lives. So the majority of our experiences of ripening karma occur from actions in previous lives. Mathematically, it makes sense. If we are experiencing the results of previous lives, they certainly must add up to more than this current one by itself. Now, the reason that I find it interesting to put this on a dish and serve it to you is that for the curious individual, this is a fascinating proposition. We can no longer draw straight lines between our normal habits of seeing and deciding what caused what in our experience. You stole my money, so therefore I can't go to the movies, or I can't buy this or that. Or you decided you didn't like me and left me, and therefore X, Y, Z, whatever it is. If we look at this closely, any conclusion that we might be inclined to draw, by definition, can't hold water. So that teaching all by itself, contemplated carefully and looked at, can radically change our relationship with all of our experience. As our experience is driven then by things that originated way before we were born in this life. Now, it's not a requirement. In fact, I would say that it's a requirement not to believe in this. If you believe in this, you are placing another obstacle in front of yourself for some future point. On the other hand, if you imagine that the great majority of your own experiences in this moment, in this life, however you want to frame it, originated before this life, it's an interesting contemplation to sit down and practice shamatha and just have that relationship without any conversation. Just note that the feelings and the perceptions and the things that arise while you're sitting still did not, contrary to our ordinary understanding, arise from much at all that has happened recently. There's also a benefit to this if you look at karma in this way. It's easy to build a sense of equanimity in relationship to all other beings, because we're all kind of in the same boat when it comes to this particular proposition. So it can become kind of ludicrous to hold judgments against others. We have no idea what came to them, when it started, where it will end. And so everyone's relationship to us becomes like a teaching relationship. We have an opportunity to see our own experience arise by virtue of our relationships with others. We do not have an opportunity to ever know where that came from. Okay. I think that's about 500 times too much. Let's have a session of shamatha again, 20 minutes or so.
By this virtue may I quickly realize Mahabuddha and establish all beings without exception in this state.
So of course we're going to have our usual potluck lunch, and if you've come without a potluck, is almost on. It's certain that there'll be extra food anyway. So please stay. And after lunch at 1:30 we'll return, and we have one more thought to ponder, and then we'll have one last meditation and finish at about 4:30. And now before lunch, then we have some growing number of announcements with a growing number of things that are important to announce.
Where shall we start?
Let's start with May 13th,
All right.
which will be a teaching by Lama Michael here on mind training, the pith instructions. And so if you've been working with your mind and mind training, coming to that class any of the last, I don't know how many years it has been going, please plan to come to that. It's all on the website.
It's all on the what?
Website.
Oh, the website.
And there's a poster in there.
And a poster there. Yeah, and mind training, the mind training group will meet this next Thursday here. If you haven't been coming, you're welcome to come. It can be a drop-in group. It often is. There's kind of a core that's here all the time, and then some folks who come, go.
And I believe it's the 25th, is it not? May 25th? 26th. Of when Lama Drupchi is going to be.
Oh, no, May
24th.
24th. I'm sorry,
24th.
wrong event,
Yeah.
wrong-
Stop, you're both wrong.
Got it. May 24th, that's right, Wednesday.
All right.
You're in the ballpark.
We're in the ballpark. Yeah, Wednesday evening, May 24th, Lama Drupchi, aka Tony Chapman, will be here, and there's also a poster up there. I think most people have heard about him coming before, so I won't give too many details, but he's one of the earliest students of Colin Rinpoche, and he's also on the first Kriya retreat in the West, which was in France, under Colin Rinpoche's direction. We're looking forward to having him. A glancing blow on his way out to SCOL. We'll just have him for an evening.
Yeah, he's going to be teaching some things to the three retreatants out there. So
Yeah.
we're just lucky to,
Yeah,
we're just
very.
grabbing a little bit of his energy on the way out.
Yes, we're lucky to have him on both accounts, actually. And the big deal visit with Khenpo Rinpoche coming up the end of June. That one is the 26th.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one is the 26th. So is that the day he arrives or the Tuesday?
The day he arrives.
That's the day he arrives. That's Monday the 20th. Tuesday will be a blessing at our new center, and then Khenpo Rinpoche will also be up teaching at the retreat center and back for the weekend. The teachings the Friday evening, Saturday, and Sunday at our new center, which leads me directly into our new center.
Registration's now open.
Oh,
it
yes,
is.
registration is now open
Registration is open.
for
For
Khenpo Rinpoche's
Khenpo.
events.
For Khenpo.
Wow.
As
Many
well as
options.
these other events.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, there's a lot of different events at Khenpo Rinpoche, and I recommend everybody just check the box for all events, and then you don't have to.
Yeah.
You don't have to.
Make it easy.
Yes.
It'll make
You
your
don't have to
registration really
register
easy.
separately for each
That's right.
event, right?
Yeah, that's the way, quick and easy. And we are continuing to make progress out with work at our new center. We had the last bit of foundation work poured and all kinds of framing done, and pretty soon, this place, for those who don't know, a little factoid, the previous church that was there was named the Church Without Walls. And given the amount of deconstruction that we have done, it's now literally the Church Without Walls. Though that is changing soon. That's changing soon. So if you actually want to see it in this
pristine open state, you better hurry, come on out.
And
New walls.
now you can actually walk through the walls.
This is, yes,
Yes,
now you can walk through walls.
That's
Yes,
true.
you get the advanced teachings first.
Well, it's very fun because you can, now, is the framework for where the walls are going to be, and so you can actually see what's going to happen instead of just totally imagining it. So it's amazing how much happens there every day. It's just incredible.
And it's good.
amount
When
of
does the sheetrock?
Probably the week after this. So that's our current, if everything goes according to
A moving
plan.
day is when?
Moving day is about 2 days after that, June 15th.
Well,
Well,
there,
yeah, I mean, totally.
that's when everything's over.
Yes.
We're
The June 11th is that right?
Is what?
Is the Sunday?
The last Sunday.
Yeah, the last Sunday here. And so I think there may be some moving kinds of things to do. Some
June
moving
4th also. on the-
Then, as well as the week before, the first Sunday in June, we're going to have half of an all-day sit. And then in the afternoon, there will be moving related or painting or something, various projects that will be able to be done. And then the last Sunday that we're here, this will really start the moving process over that day and the next few days.
On that moving day, is there going to be a lunch after the 3 hours of sit in the morning, or is that?
I don't know. I'm not sure how to.
No, we'll be fasting.
Good luck getting people to stay.
Figure it out.
There will be, we'll get lunch one way or another. We always do.
That Monday is packing day.
Okay, the
The
Monday,
12th,
the
June
12th
12th
is
is packing day.
packing everything up, okay. And then when we have some movers.
Movers will be on Tuesday,
Okay.
so the 12th. No, 13th.
13.
11, 12, 13.
Okay.
So momentum is picking up, and if you would like to engage in that momentum and come over and pick up, you're welcome. And I think I don't know about this next Saturday, but we will be having some Saturday opportunities for volunteer work. But I'm looking across at Jeff, and we have a meeting this afternoon, and we'll be figuring out exactly.
Hammer it
what
out.
those- What's that?
You'll hammer it.
Yeah, we'll hammer it out.
Well, and all these, just to say, the building, the moving, Kemper O'Shea's events, all of this takes a lot of volunteer slots. So if you have a little corner of some time to offer, pick one of those things and talk to somebody like Linda, and she'll gear you to the right person, because we can use help during the events when Kemper O'Shea is here, setting up for them, doing some planning for that, or not. And then there's all the building work and painting and cleaning around here and packing things up. So lots of opportunity.
What's that?
And now I think there's momentum towards lunch.
Speaking of lunch, one more thing is, on the sign-up sheet for chores for today, I noticed that there's still a couple of slots open for the opportunity of lunch cleanup. So we could use a couple of lunch cleanup people to sign up for that. It's back by the tea table.
That's one of those karma items that recurs every
Yeah.
year.
There's no end.
From past lives.
Right, your own
Do it
kitchen
this
gets
life
dirty.
and you never need to do it.
Yeah, if you don't take care of it now, it'll still be there eons from now. You won't remember why it is that you have to do it.
I feel like dishes are just never ending anyway.
Yeah, yeah, that's karma too.
We are starting